The topic of this video is division with Napier's abacus. This will be different from what Napier presented himself in his book Rabdology. If you're interested, you may want to take a look at that book, but his method requires paper and pencil, and the method that I will be showing here does use his device, but you can do all the work entirely on this device. So the first example that we're going to do is 24 divided by 8. And so I'm going to create a 24. We need to change our ordinary number 24 into a location number. And 16 plus 8 gives us 24. We're going to divide that by 8. And so division is basically undoing multiplication. Those two are inverses of each other. So I'm going to use what I have down on the bottom to try to create a rectangle inside of the abacus. So I bring the 16 onto the board, and I'm going to slide it up until it is horizontally across from the 8. I bring this 8 onto the board and I slide it diagonally and to the right until it is directly across from the 8. To read the answer, I come straight down and I see what columns these coins are in, and I see that it's 2 plus 1, which is a total of 3. Remember, we started with a 24 down here. We did this sliding, and the result is red along the bottom of the rectangle that you get in here. So this is 2 plus 1, which is 3. So another problem that we'll do is 60 divided by 10. We know the answer should be 6, so let's see if that works out. So 60 is going to be 32 plus 16, which is 48, plus 8 more is 56, plus 4 is 60. So that's the part that takes some work, that changing of an ordinary number into a location number. But the thing that Napier was doing was to take harder operations like multiplication and division and turn them into only addition and subtraction. So there's our 60. We're going to divide this by 10, and we're going to operate in that same way. So I'll start over here. I'll bring this straight onto the board. We don't bring these on diagonally. This is just where I'm keeping track of things. It's technically starting out right here. I'm going to slide that, and this is going to become the upper left-hand corner of my rectangle. So I'm going to do the same thing with the 16, with the 8, and I do want it, by the way, to match up with this row. I'm trying to make a rectangle whose height is this. It's in the 8 row and the 2 row. So I bring on the 4, and look at how it slides into place right down there to complete the corner of this rectangle. And then once again, in order to read my answer, I'm coming down here below the rectangle, and I'm reading it off by looking at what columns this rectangle comprises. And it's 4 plus 2, which is 6. I've done a lot of talking, but originally the problem was 60 divided by 10, and that is in fact equal to 6. Now sometimes they're a little bit more complicated. You need to do some regrouping for some of these problems, and that's going to happen in this next one. So next up we have 42 divided by 6. 42 divided by 6. Well, 42 is going to be a 32 plus 10 more, right? 32 plus 8 plus 2. So there's 42, and I want to divide that by 6. So I'm going to try to build a rectangle in these 2 rows. And so I start on the far left, bring in this coin, and I want to build a rectangle here. So I know that I have to have another coin right here because I need one that's in this row, and I need one also in the column that I've just started to make. But that's not going to work with this next coin that I have, because if I bring this on and I slide it, I can only maintain the value if I go diagonally, and this is not in the proper row, and this is not in the proper column. So how do we deal with that? Well, what I'm going to do is bring these back to where they started, so that we've got 42 divided by 6, and I'm going to regroup. So that 32, one group of 32, is going to become two groups of 16. Those are equal to each other. One group of 32 becomes two groups of 16. I bring a 16 onto the board, and I slide it diagonally until it's in the row belonging to the top counter on the right-hand side. Now, I'm going to try bringing this other 16 in and sliding it. Now, it can't stay here because that first one that we placed is going to be the top left-hand corner of the rectangle. So this would be to the left of our rectangle. It can't go here, that spot is already taken, and it can't go here because that is above our rectangle. The top of the rectangle is going to be row 4. So I'm going to bring that back down, and I'm going to regroup there as well. I wasn't able to work with what was there, and so I regroup. 16 is 2 8s. I'm going to bring an 8 onto the board, slide it diagonally. That's matching up nicely. Actually, I can do that again because I can move this 8 up here, and that matches the top of our rectangle. But at this point, I don't want to bring another 8 on, because if I do, it's going to either go here or here, and that is outside of our rectangle. So once again, I'm going to regroup. An 8 is equivalent to two groups of 4. I bring on the 4 and slide it. And can we do that again? Yes, that's going to go right there, which is perfectly fine in terms of building a rectangle using the correct parameters. And then bringing in the 2 and sliding it diagonally, we have created our rectangle. And so what's the answer here? Well, we need to see what this side of our rectangle gives us, and that's 4 plus 2 plus 1, which is 7. And in fact, the answer to 42 divided by 6 is 7. So I want to do one that's a little trickier yet and actually involves remainder, because not every division problem comes out evenly. So here we're going to do 43 divided by 3. So let's see. This is 40, 42, 43. And I want to divide that by 3. And I think because of this gap here that we're probably going to need to regroup again, but let's give it a try. We'll bring on the 32, we'll slide it up so that it's even with the top row. But yeah, there's no way I'm going to get a coin to be in this row and this column. So I'm going to bring that back off the board, and we will regroup. The 32 becomes 2 16s. Bring one of those onto the board, slide it into place. Let's see, I'm not going to be able to use this 16 because it's going to be outside our triangle since this is the top left-hand corner. So I'm going to right away regroup that 16 to be 2 8s. Those will be added to the 8 that's already there. I'll bring the 8 onto the board. I can bring another one onto the board and slide it so that I'm working on the top row now. And at this point, I can't use another 8 because that would turn out to be above the rectangle that we're building. So we're going to regroup once more. I'll bring in a 4 to finish off this column. Can we bring in another 4? Yeah, that'll work because I can bring it in here and then move diagonally. The 2 comes straight in. At this point, all that I have left is this 1 that's sitting down here. I could bring it onto the board, but I can't complete that column, and I can't regroup it to get an additional penny or counter to be able to put 2 more onto the board. So this is it. This is all we can do. So the problem was 43 divided by 3. Well, what we get is that 43 divided by 3 is 14 with 1 left over. So 43 divided by 3 is 14, remainder 1.